Hi, welcome to Greenwood Grown. My name is Megan and this is a September garden tour. Let's start off on the patio garden with an update on the gigantic impatient behind me. So I'm backing way off so you can see just how big this impatient has gotten. I have never grown anything like it. I grew this impatient from seed. This is what I thought I was growing. These. See how much smaller they are in comparison. It's a monster and I am delighted. I don't know what's going to happen to it. I don't think that this is a perennial impatient. I'm going to have to see if I can find the seed packet that I grew them from, because if it is, I need to move it. It will drown. The rainwater comes off of our roof right there and comes into that pot. And so I only grow annuals there because they will drown. We've got some fall color coming in with some mums and asters. This little fun grouping of plants down here is going to get moved over into near the apple trees, and I'll show you that in a minute. Here is the patio flower garden. Look at this gorgeous dahlia. This is one of my surprise dahlias that I grew tubers from, not knowing what they were. I'll show you a couple more of them. But isn't she lovely? And we've got the coreopsis. I love this coreopsis. I just bought some more coreopsis in a different color, so that will be a pink. So I have this kind of like dusty purple color. Oh, there's a white and yellow mum coming in right here, just starting to flower. Here's one of the other surprise mums. It's the same color as that other one, and I am not mad at all about having to. And we have a little garden spider here. She was out this morning. I don't think you can, I don't know if you can pick up the web on the camera. Maybe a little bit. Doesn't look like she's caught anything quite yet, but on my Instagram you can check, and I got a great picture of her this morning. So there's another mum coming in, and more coreopsis. I need to, hi Ike. Ike thinks that my hand should be used for petting him at all times. The petunias are not really blooming. They will bloom. I just need to give them some fertilizer. And here's the other giant dahlia. It needs to be deadheaded. And this is another one of my surprise dahlias. I am extremely happy. This was just a surprise bag from Costco of bulbs that weren't marked. I didn't know anything about their colors. I'll show you the rest of the ones that came from Costco. Despite the heat this year, it has been a good year for impatiens. This hanging pot has done great, and the other little pot with impatiens down here in the rock garden has done great. This giant sedum, I have two of them, one here, and then my friend Teresa gave me the matching one that I put back there. They're so much fun, and they flower, like they've been in flower for a long time, but they don't change color until it cools off. So they just barely came into color. They've been green for a couple of weeks now. These pots are kind of, well, the pansies did great all summer long, which is weird. Pansies don't like hot weather, but there was enough shade that they did really well. I am rethinking growing the bee balm here. It's happy, but it just doesn't look good for all the year. And so I think I'm going to maybe transplant it into the new permaculture-ish area. I'll show you that in a minute. That's where those other plants that I just showed you near the back door are going as well. And then more petunias that need a bloom fertilizer. This is one of the other Costco dahlias, and this is one plant. All of those flowers are coming off of the same plant. So we've got this gorgeous variegated one, two of those. And then this one, these two are red with just a little bit of variegation in them. So that's a lot of fun. Dahlias are so much fun. So this crazy experiment, these vines are sweet potatoes, and then there's some celosia over there and a little bit of nasturtium and a marigold that came up, and just sort of hodgepodge things that I threw in there. And then of course the bamboo was just having none of it. It was going to come back. So I finally lost the battle with the bamboo, but did get some other things in here, and will readdress the battle with the bamboo in the winter. The green stalk is still putting out strawberries. Such a treat to eat a strawberry in September. And lots of runners. And these will all be cut and planted in the blueberry patch. So some more nasturtiums. These were late planted nasturtiums. And this, now that it's cooled down, this begonia, the bulb was a gift from my mother-in-law, and it is so pretty. I love the peach with the fade into the bright yellow. Such a pretty plant. This one struggled where I had it before, and it seems to be doing better here. It doesn't mind morning sun, but doesn't want to be in the afternoon sun. These two plants, I think, we are also going to readdress where they're going to live. They're deer mint in this one, which is starting to flower again just a little bit. That's what the flowers look like. And then some hyssop, and I just bought some more hyssop, but I think this one is going to also get moved. So the herb garden is looking great. My boys call these Halloween flowers this time of year. This is echinacea coneflower, because they look kind of scary and dead. We let them, and then they are putting out side shoots right here, the new flowers. But I always let them go to seed because I want them to spread. They spread slowly. This is, I think, my third year with these in here. It started as one little plant. And yeah, I just would love this whole bed, which is decomposing. I would just like it to fill in with coneflower. Rest of the herb garden's doing great. The feverfew right here is finally growing back, and I'm hoping that by leaving the seeds on here, I'll get some more feverfew starts that I can move. I don't really want them more than one plant right there, but I do want some in some other places in my yard. And the strawberries here are running too, and we are going to let some of them run, but the ones that are running out onto the path will also be moved into the blueberry patch. The black-eyed Susan vine finally took off. It is, I'll show you on another bed, it is kind of everywhere now. And that's fun. I think that I will reconsider what I grow it in, and I'll show you why in a minute. This was another one of the surprise dahlias. I think it's the same color as my oldest dahlia, but I'm not positive if they're exactly the same. Anyway, she's beautiful. And then this dahlia has not been very happy. She is an open centered dahlia, the only one that I have. And I don't know what I'm going to do with her, but the black-eyed Susan vine has been problematic for this particular plant. And then this dahlia that was poorly planted has just soldiered on, and every time it blooms, it has such big blooms that they just fall over. But aren't they pretty? I will plant her properly so she can grow better next year. The zinnias are in just in their full glory now. This is what I wait for. I love this. Isn't it just, I don't know, it's so much fun for me to just have a wild zinnia patch. And I think we talked about the forget-me-nots, which are reblooming. I cut them way back. They're reblooming. I think they're gonna move so that the 3 calla lilies there have more room to grow. Oh, hi little friend. This part of the flower bed isn't looking as great. The Sweet William is dying back, except for this one color. This one color looks great. I don't know what's going on there, but I am noticing that there is some new growth near the bottom, and so I'm hopeful that there will be some of them that will come back and flower next year. We'll see what happens. This nasturtium that I planted really late is taking off and doing really well, and much like the other petunias, these petunias and these up here, that one's blooming a little bit, but they just need some fertilizer. These alyssum that I grew, some from seed and some that I bought in packs, have really taken off, and I'm really happy with that. And then this portulaca, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right because I've only ever read it, this right here, I think I'm going to move that. I'm really happy with it. I have another one that's not doing great, so I'm trying to decide where I'm going to move them, but I think I'm just going to let the alyssum, these white petunias in here, they are annuals. They'll die back, and I think I'm just going to let the alyssum kind of take that over. This is the bed I wanted to show you with the black-eyed Susan vine. It just sort of ate the zinnias and the marigolds. They're in there. They're struggling to make their way out. So the little spots of pink, and there's a straw flower down in here. It's knocked them all over and is just happily growing over the top of them, which isn't that upsetting. They're annuals, but this is a helianthus, and it is it's a perennial, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, if it's going to stay there or not, but I had put it in there to kind of see how big it got and what color it was, and well, I'm not really sure how big it is because the black-eyed Susan vine has just grown up it and around it, and I think I'll probably leave it there one more year. The black-eyed Susan vine is an annual, and it will die with the first frost, so it's super fun. I love it. I will definitely grow it again, but I will have to reevaluate what gets put in with it. It might just have to be in its own pot, and not in with other flowers. So this is our current project. These are my 3 fruit trees. There's this scrawny one over here is a pear. And these 2 are apple trees. They are kind of weird trees. They each have 4 grafts varieties on them, and the grafts haven't done great, and I've just decided to prune them and let them produce what they want to produce. I'd rather have fruit than all the different types of fruit. So you can see the wood chips in here and the cardboard. We have pulled the bushes out that were behind there and then sheet mulched this, and we're not quite done. You can see this part over here is still in progress, but we're making progress. And then the plants that I showed you over by the back door will go in this area right here, and they're all pollinator friendly. They have mostly blue flowers, and there'll probably be some other things in there. I'm really happy with my El Campagna, and I might put some things that get a little bit more height there, like sunchokes, just to get some more privacy along that fence. The entrance to the garden is looking really fun right now. The basil is just flowering to its heart's content, which was the point. I have other basil that I'm harvesting. I'm still harvesting it for tea, but it is growing far more than I can drink for tea. The scarlet runner beans have grown up this trellis and have reached the top, Now over here, the one place that I would love it to climb, the black-eyed Susan vine, is not climbing as much as I had hoped it would. We'll see, it still has some time, but it's sort of pooling at the bottom here instead of climbing, and it is planted in the ground here. So it seems to be doing a little bit better in the pots. I don't know, it's my first year growing it. We'll see what happens next year. And over here, the teddy bear sunflowers have come up, and again, more basil flowering, making the pollinators happy and making me happy too. I just love the different varieties. This is something that I will continue to do, to grow lots of different varieties of basil for flower and tea and just to enjoy, because it's so enjoyable. And through the front trellis we have this wild bed. I mean, everything's pretty wild right now. I don't know, you wouldn't be able to see this on camera, but there are just bumblebees everywhere in there. Bumblebees, and let's see if I can find one holding still. Sort of. This is a tomatillo, and it is getting fruit slowly but surely. The second plant that I put in is finally allowing for pollination. So we'll see what I get. We may not get any, but if nothing else, the pollinators are very happy. There's a crop of string beans right here. These two artichokes are flowering. The artichokes are really too small to eat, so we're just letting them go to flower. Feed the bees. Look at these two marigolds. They have just like shown up and loved life. I wish all of my marigolds looked that great. They were just really happy. The peppers have tons of fruit on them. I've roughed them up a little bit, hoping to get them to start to ripen, and it looks like the ones on this side over here that get the most sun are starting to ripen. Here's hoping. I think we're probably done with our 90-degree days, so I may just end up with a lot of green peppers. And if you have been around a while, you know that I am not a big fan of green peppers, so I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but somebody will get a lot of green peppers. This is my third crop of sunflowers just coming into flower. And then over here, you have to make your way through the path. It's sort of obscured, but the eggplant has just done amazingly well this year. We've harvested a lot of eggplant. And the loofah. The loofah finally showed up to play. Look at that. That's one of a couple on here. There's some little ones too. I may harvest a little one and see what it tastes like. You can eat them when they're little, but I'm hopeful. This is the biggest loofah I've ever grown. We aren't to our frost date yet. They do love heat, but we aren't to our frost date. I'm gonna keep fertilizing it. I don't know that it will dry on the vine. I don't think it will. But I am hopeful that I will get at least one that will get big enough to dry so that I can turn them into loofah sponges. This artichoke as well decided to flower out of season. So we're gonna have some beautiful artichoke flowers there. The patty pan squash is doing great. We just thinned it yesterday. It is starting to see a few, like some signs of powdery mildew. That is what kills all of our squash every year. But because I heavily prune my squash, I will get squash a lot longer. And you can see there's a lot of squash on here. We've already harvested a lot. These sunflowers we're letting put up their side shoots, but their original ones are done and feeding the birds. An integral part of our integrated pest solutions are the birds. We like them here, we want them here. And this nasturtium, I planted nasturtium along here, and mostly the squash has taken it over, but in some of the places it's filling in. Look at this beauty. So this is a Velvet Queen sunflower, and this is just a side shoot just growing off of this one that's fallen. And because it's still getting some nutrients, it'll put out new flowers. As opposed to like the great big sunflowers that just put out one, these will put out several. Over here, this area has a lot of borage coming up. I'm going to weed that out. We did replant greens here, and then we had another really hot day, a couple of days, and the germination was terrible. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the borage out, and this will be a spot that I will grow some more lettuce here now that it's cooled down again. Beets are ready to harvest. I just don't have the capacity to deal with them right now. There's another artichoke in here. She'll have to move. We do have two cantaloupe. So there's one, and there's the other. I'm hopeful that we will get at least one, like that at least this one will get ripe. It's looking good. It's not, I don't think it's ready to harvest yet. From what I've read, I need to wait until this is more dry, but it's getting dry, so it might be close. Last year, my watermelon that I grew, I waited too long and it was overripe. So I'm nervous about it, but we'll see. We'll see what I get. These are the second planting of potatoes, and they are starting to die back. And in fact, I am probably going to cut water to this bed and start hand watering the other plants so that the potatoes will, they have flowered. There's the remains of a flower right there. They're done flowering. And we're just waiting for the plants to die back, and then we will harvest the potatoes again. Over here we have the Malabar spinach that we just let a couple of plants volunteer just because it's so pretty. So over here the rattlesnake beans have met the Malabar spinach, and I didn't grow the Malabar spinach up the whole thing or it would create this beautiful trellis, but it reseeds itself so intensely that I pulled most of them out. We've got peppers coming on. These are cayenne and Anaheim. And I'm starting to see some red in there, so I'll start to harvest the cayenne soon. The Anaheim, this is the Anaheim, and I'm not seeing any color on those yet. This borage, this is why I'm going to pull all the other borage starts out. Have we talked about how borage has such pretty flowers, but pollinators love them, so I always let a couple come up. They reseed very easily, and the flowers are edible. They're delicious. They taste like cucumbers. We've got a bachelor button coming up in the path right there. Might even move her. And then this is a fall bachelor button that came up that is playing with our yard-long cucumbers. There's one right there. It's not quite ready to harvest, but they get about, I don't know, they can get like 4 or 5 inches longer than that. We could eat that right now, or we can let it go longer. I've got one in the house. This plant is not as successful as they were last year, but we've had problems with all the cucumbers. So I'm just happy that we're getting anything at this point. Here's more teddy bear sunflowers. Who doesn't love those? They're so fun. So fun. Oh, there was a bumblebee on that one, but it didn't like me putting my camera near it. Over here, we're letting the cucumbers have this space as well. These cabbage I planted this time last year, and they took this long to head up, but we do have 2 that are ready to harvest, and then these 2 little ones that I'll probably let go a little bit longer. Over here we have spinach that's struggling because I keep forgetting to water it. But here pretty soon I shouldn't have any problems. I'll probably reseed this in spinach. This is one of the chocolate cherry volunteers that has just gone wild and produced a obscene number of chocolate cherries, which are my favorite. I have one that I grew from start in the cherry tomato bed, but this one actually is producing more than the one I grew from seed. The Roman chamomile is looking a little sad, but we have harvested a lot of chamomile off of it. I harvest it every couple of days. It doesn't have a lot of flowers on it right now because I harvested from it yesterday. More chocolate cherry growing over there since I didn't tie it up. And then this squash plant is the Romanesco. It also is looking a little sparse because I pruned it yesterday, heavily pruned it. It's having more problems than my other squash. It will probably die sooner. I have really enjoyed eating this squash. Growing it, I'm not really in love with it. So we'll see what Spring Megan thinks about growing it again. See how much I remember disliking it, or whether I'm just like, oh, I really enjoyed eating it. It has been prolific. It's done great, but this is the first time I've ever had squash bugs, which we were able to take care of. That was fine because I already pruned my squash, but it is also having more problems with powdery mildew than my other squash plants. So we'll see. I have always grown Black Beauty. This is the first time I've grown Romanesco. I really want to try Trombosino squash, and so that might be what I opt for next year instead. The tomatoes are Wild Jungle, as September tomatoes are supposed to be. We have harvested a ton of tomatoes. I'm not weighing my produce this year just because I don't have the capacity, like myself. I have so much going on, but we are growing a lot of tomatoes, and they're big tomatoes. The pineapple are big. We're getting mostly pineapple and Paul Robeson. The Paul Robeson are really dark brown color. They're very pretty. And then also some Kellogg breakfasts. And I don't think I've had a Dr. Wychee yet. So I'm going to have to go look at my plant tags and see. I might have and just didn't realize it. Last year I felt kind of sad about my cherry tomatoes. I only grew one cherry tomato plant, which honestly is all we need. I grew one, well, actually I grew two because one was an accident. And they were both chocolate cherry. So this year I have Sun Gold, chocolate cherry, sweetie, and yellow pear. And well, 5 cherry tomato plants is a little problematic, but they're so much fun. I just made sauce the other day from nothing but cherry tomatoes. It's a lot of skins, but I just ran it through my food mill and it was fine. The giant marigolds are a forever addition to my garden. I love them. I particularly love these poofy ones. I need to be sure and save seeds from those, but really even the open centered ones. The bees love them. I love them. The tomatoes love them. There's nothing not to love about them. They're delightful. So here's my volunteer sunflower that is providing food specifically for a very large western blue scrub jay who is happy to come and eat around the edges. He's not leaving me much. Might pull a few of those out since she was a volunteer and so successful. Our baby green arugula is doing great. We've been eating it. There's lots of it, more than we could possibly eat, but yeah, I just come out here and harvest it whenever I need some. It is so delicious with eggs. It is my favorite green to eat with my eggs in the morning. The straw flowers here have done really well. And then these were extra zinnias that, it's so funny. I do so little with these zinnias and they're so happy. And then we still have what's not to love about Swiss chard, the sturdy green that is beautiful and gives you greens through the entire season. Still growing strong, still going strong, and beautiful, adds a beautiful pop of color and is a delicious vegetable to eat. Over in the in-ground beds, the sunchokes have reached their full height and I'm sure will flower soon, which is always one of my favorite. One of them has fallen over and fallen into the straw flowers. I'm letting the straw flowers mostly go to seed so that I can collect them. So they're looking a little rough right now, but I have harvested a lot of straw flowers out of this bed. Pretty happy with that. These onions are looking terrible and I'm going to pull them out and flip this bed. So we'll just get a few little onions that I'll cook with out of it. And we've been harvesting cabbage and making sauerkraut. there was a post about that recently on my Instagram. And we've got, I think, 11 more heads of cabbage. So lots of coleslaw and fried cabbage and sauerkraut. And then the Brussels sprouts are looking great. I am hopeful that we will have Brussels sprouts by Thanksgiving. And that is how long it takes to grow Brussels sprouts in this area. Is I plant them in the spring, like in May. Actually, probably earlier than May. I think I planted them in either early May or late April this year. And that is just, they take a really long time to grow, but I love them. So I am happy to grow them alongside my cabbage. The cabbage looks a little rough right now, but actually if you get up close, they're beautiful heads of cabbage. The El Campagna is done flowering. I have no idea what to do with it, so I'm just sort of letting it go to see what nature does. The flowers are kind of acting like dandelions. I'm like, would love for it to reseed. Like, grow more, please, grow more El Campagna. And then this clean slate black here is where the other flowers are going in. And one last thing I wanted to show you is back here I've planted some, I believe these are garlic chives. I planted some other kinds, but these are the only kind that came up. Oh, nope, white Lisbon green onions. So these will go under the apple trees as well. And then these are all flowers that can be started in the fall and will overwinter. So we have asters, Shasta daisies, alyssum, hollyhocks, and some more stock. The stock didn't germinate great, but I got two, so I'll take it. And then this tray over here are all fall brassicas. So like those red cabbage that are just growing now, those were from the fall that I planted this time last year. So these are the fall brassicas that we may get some in the late fall, early winter, and then we may get some overwintering. And then the kale will get kale flowers in the spring, which are one of my favorite foods. So definitely worth the work for me. So this is a really busy time of year right now between harvesting and trying to preserve things, and having dogs that think they need to always be right with me when I sit down. Done. There's a lot going on between harvest, preserving, and starting new beds and starting a fall garden. It's a really busy time of year, and I always enjoy it in the way that I have learned to enjoy chaos. That's what it feels like, is chaos. But with so many gifts coming in from the garden, there's no way to complain. So much to share, and so many good foods to eat. I love this time of year. Thank you for joining me and walking through my wild jungle garden, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.